Well, everybody, we got the screen right this week. At least we have it
right. We're not
right
upside
side up.
down. We don't have that avant-garde thing going on.
Right. But why don't you introduce what we're doing, Trevor? I'm going to make sure we're centered here.
Okay. When last we met, we were talking about WrestleMania 22. We had a nice dynamic going on because I personally am not that big a wrestling fan. I know here and there. Alec grew up on the stuff, especially starting in 2006 with WrestleMania 22, the first one he ever watched in full, and he had to stay. We were both from households where our parents were like, no wrestling, they didn't like it, but we secretly would watch it sometimes. And you got to like sneak to the neighbor's house and watch it, and you finally got to watch one. A lot of exciting stuff. This was a historic one for a lot of reasons.
Right. Yeah.
We saw some people that were on screen that we watched. We watched the first half last week. Some people passed on. Some people who died. Some people are retired. People you haven't heard from since. Some people who are just starting out and then became huge or are still huge. Some people who are big in wrestling now or then and are now more so big in movies and other things, which is kind of cool to see them before they were as the public knows them today. And that's really interesting. It was also the last WrestleMania to be held, you couldn't contain WrestleMania after this.
Right,
it was just too damn big. The last one to be held in like a regular arena, and it's in Chicago, some small like minor league arena, and people realize...
Actually, it's the Allstate Arena. So I think that's where... I don't know if that's where the Blackhawks play.
No, that's called the United Center.
United Center, okay, yeah. So it is... I know you said that last week, and I was like, I'm pretty sure... But you are correct,
so
yeah.
It's probably for minor league, because, Chicago's such a big city, they probably can fill... Their minor league team probably still draws pretty good. It's probably still a big arena, but they didn't fill that. And since then, every one of them has been at an indoor NFL.
An NFL stadium, correct.
And what's funny, I was looking at the posters, and I clicked from 2006 to 07, and who was on the cover? Little did anyone know, but the damn President of the United States is on the cover. I was like, what the hell? Donald Trump? I knew he had something to do with wrestling. I didn't realize he was on the poster for WrestleMania 23 from 07, so that's funny that all those people watching in Ford Field, that'd be funny to just do a random on-the-street interview with wrestling fans in Detroit. Hey, were you here back in 07 when they did Ford Field? Yeah, what is it like knowing you saw the president wrestle somebody?
Yeah, definitely. And, and of course, we all know back then he wasn't the president. But
right, of course, it was different. But it's funny, like 9 years later, nobody had any idea, and then 9 years later he runs and he wins to everybody's shock. So that's just funny that you have, not only can you say, yeah, I saw WrestleMania live. Yeah, it was the first one in a football arena. And I got to see the president
of the United States, yeah.
Pretty crazy.
So last week, you caught me off guard, but you were correct to ask all the questions of where they were.
I felt almost like a gotcha,
but you were correct. I should, as a wrestling fan, I think I should know. So I did the research. So now we're going to go through everyone that we've already watched. We've gotten up to the point we stopped at the Trish Stratus-Mickey James match for the Women's Championship. Okay. So we'll start with those two.
And you were talking about last week that was one of the first times that women had a presence for a while. And then it kind of died out, and now they're kind of back.
Right, yeah. It was the Attitude Era. They were known just for being things to look at.
Right,
they were not really taken seriously.
Just divas and that. And Attitude Era commonly refers to as the 90s, is that right?
Late 90s, early 2000s, yep.
Okay.
And then for a while they were just literally, they were good, like they were good athletes, they were good stories. It wasn't just things to look at. But of course there was always that stigma of, they're just divas. They're not really serious. Okay. So then it went back into, I think, a little recession where nobody was taken seriously. And then, as I stated last week, I don't know when it was, but there was a trend after one of the Divas matches, which is give divas a chance. And ever since then, women have been taken a lot more seriously, and they've even main evented pay-per-views. It's like it's gotten to that point, and now people are even talking seriously about a women's match headlining WrestleMania.
Really?
Possibly this year.
Wow,
yeah.
That's
well, you got Ronda Rousey there, who's a huge draw.
Okay, yeah.
And then you got two huge draws in Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, who ironically Charlotte Flair's dad, Ric Flair's birthday is today.
Oh, that's right.
He turned 70 today.
Oh, that's kind of cool. So she's the legacy wrestler. Keep
Correct.
It in the
Yep.
family like that.
Yep.
Very good. Now at the live wrestling, because you've seen a handful of shows.
Yep.
Live wrestling. How many have? You're like, oh boy, here comes another question.
No. I'm waiting. I'm preparing. I'm like, all right,
okay.
get all my knowledge together. Go ahead.
Have you seen many good female matches there?
There's been a new wrestler who isn't used very well, but she's really good. Her name's Asuka. She's from Japan,
Ooh, cool.
and she wrestled. The last event I was at was one of her. She had a match with someone. See, the live events are hard to keep track of. The Monday Night Raws are. I mean, it's hard to know when. Like
right,
the last
it's
thing I
when
went to.
The announcer keeps saying the person's name over and over. And do you get like programs at live wrestling events?
Well, the funny thing is about that is that the card can change. Like it's
Right,
always
right.
always on the card. It says card subject to change.
Okay.
So I don't think. I mean, I'm sure there's programs you can buy that are super expensive.
But it's almost a joke to buy them,
Right,
Because
'cause-
and then they always have oh wait, who's that coming from the tunnel?
Right.
Oh my God, it's so and so.
Exactly. Yeah. So back to I went and I did research on where everybody is now.
Ooh,
so we'll
interesting.
start with the first one we just did, which is well, you know what? And for the record, we originally were supposed to be watching on this big screen. That's why we rented this room, everything like that. But of course, the login we got was only for a week, it seems. So now we have to kind of watch it on my cell phone here. So it's going to be a lot louder because the mic is kind of right close to it. But we'll have this kind of going in the background while we do.
Okay, we got
We got
Vince McMahon.
Yeah, this is
wow,
the
for an old man, he's pretty ripped.
this is the whole family, the McMahon family. You got Stephanie, Vince, Linda, and Shane, and he's getting ready for his match with Shawn Michaels. But while this is going on, we'll just go through quickly. I did an order of the matches that we already did. So Big Show, he's currently a part-timer in the WWE, so he still wrestles.
Sure.
Actually, this was his first WrestleMania win since he joined the company in '99. So this is 7 years he's been in the company. He has never won at WrestleMania. So this is technically he was involved in the winning team.
Very cool.
Although he didn't pin, that was a couple years down the road, but he was involved in the winning team. The second person's Kane. He's currently part-timer WWE. I think he's more focused on his political career than he is WWE.
Oh, right.
Because he
He
did
became
run.
like a
He did run
senator
for.
or
Yep.
something, right?
He ran for Tennessee. Something in Knox, Tennessee. I think Knox County.
Like congressman or something.
Right, yeah.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah. And Carlito is currently I believe he's currently wrestling in the World Wrestling Council, which I believe is a Latino wrestling organization.
Okay,
So
cool.
Chris Masters couldn't find if he wrestling with the company, but he did most recently wrestled UCE Wrestling's Ascendant pay-per-view. So I don't know if anybody would know who
There's
that
so
is.
many layers to the wrestling world
Right.
that you don't realize.
Exactly. There's so many companies and everything like that. Rob Van Dam, who won the Money in the Bank match, is going to be wrestling for Impact Wrestling on April 4th later this year, teaming with Sabu. And we have it's moved away from the McMahon family. Basically, what's going on is McMahon is making fun of, but not really making fun of, the fact that Shawn Michaels is a born again Christian. So he got down on one knee and prayed to God. And the famous quote from this one is, "God, I don't like you, and you don't like me." And he just basically goes on about how he's going to send Shawn Michaels down to the depths of hell. And it's kind of a funny.
Yeah, they got a crazy thing, guys, with like these black hoods and.
Druids, they're ignoring cause.
Druids,
Yeah, this
okay.
is the Undertaker's.
Oh yeah, he
Or
was
this is
always-
actually the entrance of the casket. The casket gets its own entrance in this match because it's
Wow.
a symbol. The Undertaker's match is the casket match.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So-
he's probably the most intricate as far as like all the props and stuff he uses. The Undertaker's crazy,
Right.
all the things he uses.
Yeah,
That's
and
cool.
he's been around so long.
Right,
Like,
yeah, I remember when I
90.
was a little
think
kid.
90 is when he debuted,
1990,
and he's
wow.
still there's still a chance he might wrestle at this year's
Really?
WrestleMania.
He's
Yeah,
still there.
he
Wow,
wrestled
how old
in
is he
3
at this
shows
point?
last year. He's in his 50s. I know that.
Ah.
But yeah, it's just insane to know how long he's been wrestling for the WWF, WWE. Shelton Benjamin, who was in the ladder match as well, he's a wrestler with WWE. He wrestles on SmackDown Live exclusively. Ric Flair, he's obviously his birthday is today.
Oh,
He's in the
right.
Legends contract with
Right,
WWE.
okay,
He's
cool.
actually a 2-time Hall of Famer himself,
Really?
and then you have He was with the Four Horsemen, which is a stable that he was a part of back in his earlier days.
Ah, cool.
So, Finley, who was the Irish guy,
Oh, right.
he's a WWE producer.
Huh.
Bobby Lashley is a wrestler currently on Raw, but he did leave the company at one point and then came back. Matt Hardy is currently a wrestler on Raw, but he is injured, I believe back issues. JBL is the match we skipped, but JBL is he's an announcer with WWE, but he's a part-time announcer. He used to be full-time commentator, but I think he's a financial guru. So he's probably in that realm more than
Wow, so a talented guy that he could
definitely
be an announcer for the Super Bowl of wrestling and also be a financial guru, have his own business that way.
Edge, he retired in 2011 due to neck injury, and he makes sporadic appearances, and he's also a Hall of Famer. Mick Foley, he retired a year later in 2012, same thing, makes sporadic appearances, and is a Hall of Famer. Booker T, he's signed with WWE as a color commentator, but he's mostly on the pre-shows now. He used to be part of the main commentary team, but he's moved to the part-time sporadic pre-show panel, I guess if you want to call it that. Charmel, all I could find is that that was Booker T's wife. She retired in 2009 from, I don't think she ever was an active wrestler, but she was just a character. I mean, she was actually Booker T's wife in real life.
Oh, right, in real life.
But,
and they would always, I remember when we were kids, I'd be over at your house sometimes, and they were always together. They were always, she was always, what's going on? And he's, don't worry, baby, blah, blah, blah. That was each other.
My queen, Charlotte.
Right, yeah, exactly. They had all those theatrics. My queen,
So she just retired in 2009.
Okay.
Boogeyman, who you forget the Boogeyman? He's in a Legends contract somehow, some way with WWE. Everyone, that's a running joke is that we don't know why Boogeyman has a Legends contract because he didn't do much when he was here other than be a Boogeyman.
Right, he had that crazy intro. He'd like crawl on the ground.
Right, and ironically, speaking of crazy entrances, we're currently watching the Undertaker's entrance, and he always seems to pull out something crazy for WrestleMania. This one, it seems a little bit more of the similar Undertaker entrance where you have the music, you have the gongs,
cool.
you have the fire.
Nice, yeah.
He just kind of walks out.
Yeah, that fire's going like 100 feet high. Imagine being sitting right near that. Sends your eyebrow.
And he's supposed to be like, they always say like it's intimidating. It's supposed to be the intimidating entrance that he has.
Right.
And it is, if you're in the ring. After seeing it for so many years, it kind of is like, it's just still awe-inspiring to hear the music. And the guy's 6'10", 6'11". He's a presence.
Right, yeah, I'm looking up his profile on him right now. That's amazing. 300 pounds, 6'11", and he looks fully fit, too. That's all muscle.
Right, yeah.
That's amazing.
And it's, and speaking of Undertaker, obviously he's still a wrestler, still active, but obviously he seems to only wrestle now at 1 or 2 or maybe 3 shows a year, and there's no confirmed match for him yet at WrestleMania, but there's all us as wrestling fans know not to believe that because heck, last year we didn't know he was going to have a wrestling match until he showed up at WrestleMania 34 and had a match with John Cena. So it was like, I mean, we figured because John Cena had been making fun of him forever about he was trying to get him to show up and be the Undertaker. Exactly. And so we kind of had an idea that maybe he would show up, but we never, obviously it wasn't confirmed until he legit showed up. So, and I jokingly wrote wherever he wants.
Yeah.
Because if they're a wrestler, I put like where they want, if they're on Raw, if they're on SmackDown, everything like that. And I just wrote down wherever he wants to wrestle is where he wrestles. Going back to the women, we have Trish Stratus. She's a Hall of Famer. She has sporadic appearances here and there. She actually was in the first all-women's WWE pay-per-view last year.
Cool.
She was a part of that, and she's also owns her own yoga studio, so in Canada. So that's pretty cool. And then catching up, Mickie James is still a active wrestler with on Monday Night Raw. And then the last one, which we saw his entrance beforehand, Mark Henry. World's Strongest Man, 400 pounds. Jeez. He's huge. And there actually is a documentary on WWE Network about him, and it's just crazy to see like how much like how much he can lift, how much he can move.
Really?
He was
Wow.
part of the Arnold Classic. He won the World's Strongest Man actually twice. So it's like it's insane to see what these guys can do outside of the wrestling ring. That like it makes it even more of a character, even though it might have nothing to do with what they're doing inside the
Right,
ring.
maybe
But
they're out of character personality wise, but just to see what athletes they are.
oh, I know, it's insane, yeah. And so yeah, that catches us up to all the wrestlers we've seen so far as to where they are. Because it was rightfully embarrassed. I was like, I couldn't tell you anything about any of the guys, which is okay though. I was okay with it. And I was like, you know what? I want the fans to know where these guys are.
Cool
so
you really did a lot of
homework
there. Very nice.
Yep.
Very nice.
And basically, the prelude to this match is that I believe the Undertaker was going for was trying to win the championship at the pay-per-view before this one.
Okay.
And right when he was about to pin Kurt Angle, who was the current World Heavyweight Champion, Mark Henry came in and like broke it up and caused a disqualification. Basically, he lost his chance to win the title. So that's what this match is all about. Why it's a casket match, I'm sure it's just another reason to dust off an old classic match that had been used in the past in very good succession. The most famous one, I think, is when it was actually Undertaker and Vince McMahon in a casket match. And unfortunately, I think the Undertaker's actually been involved in every single casket match in WWE history, I believe.
Wow.
So I think it's definitely his match.
And who is this that he's?
And he's facing a guy by the name of Mark Henry. And the guy, like I said, he was like his gimmick is he's gimmick, but it's also truth. He won the world's strongest man competition.
Yeah, wow.
And it's just like we were saying last week. You can't really marvel at these people. Like you can watch them on screen, but I mean, look at how big the phone is. It's like that's how big it is. And you look at them, they don't look that big, but like when you
seeing him in person, I bet is different too. Cause yeah, wow, almost 7 feet. I'm reading here that the Undertaker was offered to play pro basketball, not in the NBA, but in Europe. So I could imagine he was one hell of a center or power forward.
Right, yeah.
In his day, but I think he made the right choice here. He's maybe the most famous wrestler out there. Yeah.
I think that if you think about it, you know how everyone can name Hulk Hogan. Like if you say Hulk Hogan, you know that he was WWE.
He's probably
I think this day and age's Hulk Hogan is either The Undertaker or John Cena. If you say those two names,
even people who never watched a minute of wrestling in their whole life, they'll still have at least heard of.
I heard of these two guys, yeah. And I mean, I think John Cena a little bit more because he's more on the outside. He does the movies, he does appearances, he wrote books. Right.
Exactly. Yeah, he's in a lot of movies.
Right.
A lot of comedies, and he's funny. He's got good comedic timing.
Yeah, definitely. Although, it's kind of funny. You'll see it later in the show tonight, but like, the people just don't seem to like. There's a group of people, maybe my age or our age, or young or a little bit older, who are like sick of this guy and want him to like. And this is even back in 2006. Like they figure he's the Machines champion. Like they don't like the fact that he was basically John Cena was pushed down their throats. Like this is our guy. You're gonna like this guy.
The corporate mascot.
Exactly.
Like,
and then
contrived to make him a star.
Right. And so people would like. That you get his theme music is like da, da, and like people would come up with chants to actually go along with it, and it's like John Cena sucks.
Oh, that.
And it's John Cena sucks, and it's absolutely hilarious. But yeah. So it's just kind of funny, and I mean, the only thing I hate that wrestling fans do, and this is back in this day, and I don't think. You don't hear it very much anymore because I think people appreciate it, is when people chant at wrestlers, you can't wrestle. And I'm like, there's no way they can't, like, at all wrestle because they're in the ring. They were hired for something. Now, there's guys out there in the past, and you can probably, having access to the network, you could probably see some of them. It's like they were hired clearly for how big they were, not how athletic they
have, like, flexibility.
Right. And those guys, even in them, it's like, I wouldn't even chant you can't wrestle on them because it just is like this is the way. That's like someone coming in here and telling us you can't podcast. Like, like we're trying to do it. We're working on it.
We're not Joe Rogan or anything.
No, we're working towards Joe Rogan status.
We're just having fun here, but at least we're doing it. We're not
Right.
talking about it.
Right. And a lot of people like look at this match and they see Undertaker and Mark Henry, two extremely big guys. Like whether it's height or whether it's size,
Right.
it's just two big guys. And a lot of people just don't like two big guys going at it because all it seems like is it's just hugging like.
Okay.
All
a lot of
this
full
just,
body.
right, just
Okay.
like all they're doing is just whacking at each other, and that's causing issue. And so I don't know if you know the rules of a casket match. Basically, a casket gets rolled out to the ring, put at the side, as you can see. And the point of the match is to, like, the ref opens up, like you call for the casket to open up, and then basically your job is to put your opponent in the casket and then shut it.
Oh, jeez.
Right. And now you're hearing the reaction of the fan, and he actually jumped into it.
Oh, yeah, he just slid right in.
Right, and then here comes the Undertaker. He's like, "Oh, you're in it, you're in it. Gonna hit you. If I knock you out, you're in." But now they're both in it.
Now they're both in there.
Right.
Not a lot of room in there.
Right. And it's like at this point you're saying, "Henry, get out and close it." Like he's on the ground. And then and now he's. But the only problem with a spot like that, and basically what happened is you have Undertaker on the ground, and he does his signature, like, if he's in trouble, what he does is he just goes and he goes right at your throat, and that's, like, the sign of the choke slam. But, like, in that kind of area, like, you can't see, like, first of all, they're down on the ground, and he's going like this, and everyone's like, ooh, but it's like, nobody can see it.
Right, yeah.
It's not like the flaming table spot we saw last week, which everyone saw that.
Was quite a style. I'd love to know a background on how exactly they did
well,
that.
Edge, the guy who speared Mick Foley into the table, was the mastermind behind that.
Oh, okay.
He came up with that spot. Back in the early days of wrestling, I don't know if you ever heard of ECW, but ECW, and there's no pins, falls, or submissions, so the fact that he just pinned him right there, there's nothing there. There's no pins. And I don't know if that was a real mistake or if that was in the writing, like, oh, pretend to cover him so you don't know what you're doing, like show that you're not know what you're doing. But it doesn't make sense because Mark Henry's been in the WWE since like '96, so it's like clearly he would know the rules of a cat. Like the writing just kind of didn't make sense in that situation.
Do you think that's what they were trying to play it off? It's like he didn't fully know what he was supposed to do?
Right, yeah, he didn't know that he was... Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, but like I said, it just doesn't add up because, I don't know, if you've been at a job for 15 years or so, you're pretty much going to know what to do in every situation, right?
Yeah, I guess
maybe they're just trying to say, oh, he doesn't know the match type, but like...
Right.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, there can be more creative ways to milk this match. Obviously, they don't want it to end right away, but...
Right.
Nice headbutt. Oh, to no avail again. Mark
So
Henry
what was I
again.
getting? What was I getting at? I forgot. I was gonna say if you got a topic, I totally lost my train of thought.
Delegitimizes, like you were saying. You have two huge, like 7-foot guys going up against each other on TV. You can't exactly tell how big they are because, like, standing next to each other, you just think, oh, okay, they're average height,
yeah.
You put an average guy with either one of these blokes,
Right.
like you're gonna see, wow, he's got like over a foot on him.
Right.
Oh.
And now when you see the big guy go up on the top rope, that's usually it's like choking him or something.
Well, I think I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but it was like a famous moment. Two of the heaviest guys.
Oh, whoa, look at this.
Huh? Wow, throwing
400 pounds.
Yeah, 400
Basically,
pounds.
he performed a last ride or a power bomb-ish out of the corner onto the ground, and it's just to get the 400-pound guy up. That's I know he was on the top rope already, but like to just basically lift him up, walk a few feet, and then drop him.
Yeah, again, that just shows these aren't just big guys; they're athletes.
They're athletic, yeah.
You know, it's hard to be 400 pounds and be that, you know, nimble and stuff that you can climb up on the ropes, fall flat on your back, and do it in a way so you can get right back up.
I think we're speaking of athletic moves here. I believe we're about to see something that Undertaker seems to do at every WrestleMania he's in.
Oh, wow.
Now that's a 6'11" guy jumping over the ropes, basically doing a cruiserweight attack.
Right, we were saying before he was a good basketball player in college. He got offers for some like European leagues. That was the basketball skills right there. He jumps like
over the top.
over.
And I said,
Yeah,
like, that's
like
a signature spot. If
Yeah,
you
the
watch,
ropes are here. He starts running and then
just dives over,
swan
yeah.
dives over the damn thing.
Yep.
That's amazing.
It is, yeah. That just shows his athleticism. But yeah, he's basically doing a cruiserweight move, which cruiserweights are guys that are like 205 and under. And then this is also impressive. He's getting him up for the tombstone pile driver, a 400-pound guy.
Yeah, that he can lift him. You know.
Right,
Not
yeah.
that he's light at all, but
No.
oh, he's just trying to roll him in.
Yeah, you roll him in, and then you got to close it. Yeah, and the Undertaker, I don't know, he had an amazing undefeated streak. He had when it got up to 20-0 before Brock Lesnar, who you may know from outside WWE. But Brock Lesnar broke the streak at WrestleMania 30, and ever since then it's kind of been like, Undertaker showing up has just been a nostalgia act, not like, oh, we're gonna watch somebody maybe beat the streak or maybe not.
At his age and all that, and how long he's been there, you know.
Right.
But it's cool that he's some of the ones who have been around for a while. You almost get to know them so well, you can't take them as seriously as wrestlers anymore, like John Cena or Hulk Hogan. But he remains pretty mysterious. As far as I know, he doesn't really do too much in his public life.
No.
Yeah, he doesn't do too many interviews or whatever. He keeps this the really mysterious.
He's definitely a guy who keeps to himself.
That's cool. Now, does he do a lot of these guys you hear talk and stuff? I don't know if I've ever heard him talk. Does he do any interviews or?
He does in the spot in the the realms of WWE for sure.
Okay.
Outside WWE, it's very rare.
Oh,
I've seen him when Brock Lesnar. I think he was at a Brock Lesnar UFC bout, and they were interviewing him, just saying like, "Oh, what do you think?" Yada yada yada. And then Brock Lesnar walks by, and they stare at each other, and he says, "What? You want to go?" So he has a personality to him, but you're never gonna get comedy out of the Undertaker. You're never gonna get
he's this mysterious, serious dude.
But if you want to watch the Undertaker, this is obviously all this is great stuff. Like, this is a great wrestling acumen and everything like that. I think his best years were during the Attitude Era.
So late 90s.
When he's the Lord of Darkness, as it were.
That's what they said.
Yeah, he's the Undertaker, Lord of Darkness, so it's kind of like his thing. But, and it's like, unfortunately, I don't think I've ever been able to see Undertaker wrestle. I've seen him do a promo or intimidate somebody, but I've never seen him wrestle, unfortunately. And that's there's a few things in life, I'm sure you have them, with musics or movies or something like that, where you don't get to meet that person, or you don't get to see that movie, or you don't. Well, I mean, maybe not the movie, because you can obviously watch it at any time, but you don't get to meet that actor, you don't get to meet the comedian. I never got to meet Robin Williams. I never got to see George Carlin live. All these things that I love to do now, I never got to see. And unfortunately, I don't think I'm gonna ever get the chance to see Undertaker wrestle. I mean, because he's never gonna do it at a WWE Raw or SmackDown in Buffalo. No offense to Buffalo, we're not the. They usually don't pull out the nostalgia stuff.
Right, for a small market
for a small market
they're waiting
Buffalo.
For a huge, a football arena to sell out in a really big city.
Well, actually, it's funny you speak to that, because the two of the three shows that Undertaker did last year or 2 years ago, but they only brought him out just to sell out 2 shows in Saudi Arabia. So it's kind of yeah. And there's a lot of controversy with that, but that's another topic for another day. We're on WrestleMania 22 now.
I see.
But I think the next matchup is probably one of the best of the night, which is saying something, because it's between a wrestler and Shawn Michaels and the owner of the WWE, and Vince McMahon. And
who, for an old man, he's ripped as hell.
Yeah. You're actually going to see, because I think part of the thing is that he thinks he's so young and virile, he does that. But you have to. I don't think a guy that's tiny or frail could ever really run a wrestling organization.
Right.
Because you're in the ring. You're in the business with guys who are two of you, basically.
Would be ironic
if you're a tiny guy and everything like that.
Right. Exactly. That would be kind of funny. Although you do see commissioners of other professional sports like NBA, NFL, etc., where I know they probably have a background somewhat, but otherwise it's like this guy couldn't last. In playing the actual sport. With wrestling, it's different. McMahon he's really fit.
Yeah, and we're watching the opening promo for this match, and part of his shtick back in the day was, how they say you got to kiss your boss's ass, you got to to get ahead. He literally had a kiss my ass club.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Yeah, guys, he's actually pulling his pants to reveal
his trousers
a wrestling
down,
thong.
Yeah.
And have people kiss him right on the rump.
Right, and I think the beef in this one is that obviously Shawn Michaels has been around for a long time in WWE.
Guy's quite an acrobat. I've always heard the name Shawn Michaels. I didn't realize his thing was how well he can flip. They're showing highlights of him. Man can throw his
we got
body.
a lot to show you, my friend.
Yeah.
Don't we, wrestling fans?
It's like zero
Shawn
gravity.
Michaels is one of the best performers.
Wow, I can tell. Yeah, it's like he's in a space shuttle or something, just like
Right. Well, he is definitely. If you ask any wrestling fan, they'd also say Shawn Michaels is another name that is the best in best ever category. Wow. And unfortunately, he kind of
Hall of Fame.
Yep, he's a Hall of Famer. Cool. I want to say 2012, but I'm not 100% on that one. But he is definitely a Hall. He's actually going in for the second time this year because he's going in as part of a group that he was in called D-Generation X. Nice. So he was a part of that whole group is going into the Hall of Fame. So he's a part of that. So he's going in. The day before, I think it's either Friday or Saturday before WrestleMania, they do a Hall of Fame show where they put in people. I think this year D-Generation X is the first to go in. So, and then they usually announce throughout the weeks just to get you more excited. Usually the first person they announce is the main headliner Hall of Famer, so that they get people to show up to wherever they're having the event happen. So, and the whole story behind this is that basically, Shawn Michaels called out Vince McMahon for being, he's chairman of the board, you run a major billion-dollar company, why are you acting like this? And then basically Vince McMahon is like, I do it because I can, and then he's basically making Shawn Michaels' life a living hell. And then basically...
He had some goofy antics. Vince McMahon, the CEO, he kind of dances around.
Right, yeah.
It's just weird seeing an old man, gray hair and everything, with, biceps look like he's got grapefruit.
Right, I was going to say, yeah, you got to, like I said, I don't think a wrestling organization, you said, you have commissioners who are really thin, and,
right.
but they can't,
Yeah, it's different because this is all about the presentation. It's not as much about the business.
Exactly. And I think also part of his character is being the asshole, So he has to, he takes on the look by being yeah, I'm big, yeah, I own you, yeah, I'm your boss. And that's what he does as part of his character. And I wrote down Vince McMahon still owns WWE.
Yeah, well.
Nothing's changed on that one. But he's definitely, less involved now. He actually, he was less involved before, but he's kind of come back. And every time he shows up, though, it's big ratings because it's he's not a draw. I wouldn't say you say Vince McMahon shows up, he's gonna draw, but he kind of is. It's his company, so when he shows up, it makes whatever he's showing up into a big deal. He's got to be. I believe he's in his 70s.
Yeah, I'm looking at a profile.
So
right
he's
now.
73 in 2019. So you go 10, he's 63, and then so he was 60. He was 60 when this match was going on.
Yeah, my gosh. So I don't know if he'll be getting in the ring ever again.
I think the last time I've seen him get physically involved in anything was when a wrestler, basically he was fighting with his son, who you'll also see in this. You saw in the earlier segment, Shane McMahon, who is actually a wrestler and he's the commissioner of SmackDown Live. So that's where Shane McMahon is. Not a Hall of Famer. No. I'm sure any day of the week. But it's funny because I don't think Vince McMahon is in his own Hall of Fame. I think there's got to be a year where he goes in. Maybe he doesn't go in until he passes away, unfortunately, because it's a memory thing. But I think he's more deserved than anybody because heck, he made everything.
Invented the damn thing.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly.
There he is doing his
strut. And like part of it is he's like
so that's a 60-year-old we're watching right now.
yeah, and he's huge, doing the side chest pose.
Right.
So basically, you grab your arms together, you push out, and you push the bicep and the arm out, and the bicep is supposed to make. And he does a strut. You can do the McMahon strut.
He looks so goofy.
Yeah.
Is that Band-Aid always on Sean?
I think that was just for. I think the last time before the go home shows, there was a incident where he was bleeding, so it's a Band-Aid more just like a.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's more of a. I don't know if it's actual to stop anything, but I think it was more maybe just to kind of show something.
Oh, okay.
So cover a cut.
It was part of his act.
No. It wasn't. Okay. He wasn't wearing a Band-Aid to all his matches, but yeah, this is a instant another formula of an employee fighting. So you're talking about how big he is.
Oh,
so he was on the cover of Muscle and Fitness, which is a real magazine.
Right. Just what a crazy specimen he is.
Right.
Wow, and they're not even in the damn ring, and they're already going.
No, they hate each other. The classic Ric Flair chop. Although it's not really the Ric Flair chop, he just makes it his own. Yeah, I was going to say earlier with Shawn Michaels, he kind of, back in 2010, him and The Undertaker had a couple, the year before that, 2009, 2010, at those years' WrestleManias, him and The Undertaker had some of the greatest wrestling you'll ever see. Maybe next pay-per-view will be one of those because it is the wrestling that goes on, the storytelling, everything goes on in those matches is like legendary. And in 2010, he lost a career versus streak match against The Undertaker. So The Undertaker won, so that means Shawn Michaels had to retire. 2010, he went in the Hall of Fame, I believe, like I said, 2012. I don't think he went in the year after. I think he went in the next year. I'm not 100% on that, but he is a Hall of Famer. And part of his thing was he stayed retired to respect The Undertaker or whatever like that. But then this last year, 2018, he came back out of retirement to wrestle, and I thought it kind of just ruined it, I think, a little bit. And I'll let this transpire.
Yeah, hit you in the head with it. Look out! And then shove it up his ass.
Jeez. So they just took that poster that was in the crowd that was framed.
Yeah,
and
of Muscle and Fitness.
Yeah, like something Bugs Bunny would do.
Right. And this is a.
And all of a sudden, this troop of all people in matching jumpsuits. What the hell?
They're male cheerleaders called the Spirit Squad. And I didn't even include these guys on my. The only guy I'm going to talk about, his name is Dolph Ziggler. Now he was in this crew.
Wow!
But he's the only guy.
That guy. Right. Look at him all dancing. What the hell?
This was McMahon's hired goons, I guess if you want to call them that.
All of a sudden, out of nowhere, you see 6 guys all dressed in green and white. All do that. Now they're all doing real cheerleading moves.
Right. They're all idiots.
And they all tossed Shawn
up in the air.
Yeah,
Shawn Michaels.
Michaels up in the air.
Right. They're basically a comedy act.
Oh yeah, I can tell. It's like the clowns in the circus.
Right. Yeah.
Kinda. That's hilarious. Although I bet with cheerleading skills that translates into wrestling skills.
It could,
Pretty
yeah,
cool.
it could.
Yeah. Guy's standing right on the corner of the rope there and
landed her straight on his butt.
Yeah, tried to seat drop it on the guy.
Just pull his pants down and kiss his ass, Spirit Squad. That's what you need to do.
Hitting him with the megaphone.
Yeah.
Jeez. The heavy megaphone. He's just knocking him down like it's a baseball.
Basically, just like Chicago Cubs, Chicago White Sox, depending on which one's closer to the Allstate Arena. Whichever one, I'm not sure.
6'8". We know who we appreciate right now.
Using cheerleader puns. That's funny. Oh, and now that was cool. He threw the cheerleader with one hand out of the ring.
Yep.
Luckily, all the guys were there to catch him.
Yeah. They didn't catch him, though.
That's right. And then there's as they all retreat, McMahon.
Yeah, I guess the pitcher must have cut him a little bit above the eye, 'cause you see a
he's
little
got
bit of
some,
blood.
Oh.
So this is where McMahon starts to take over. But it's kind of like I said. I said a non-wrestler versus a wrestler. It is crazy to see how good Vince McMahon is,
Right.
because as a wrestler, because he's not a trained. Despite his profession as a commissioner or like a owner of a wrestling company, he hasn't wrestled. Like he doesn't.
Right. He
I'm
was
sure
born
he
into the business. Yeah,
right. I'm
but-
sure he knows like the basics, but like he's not he's not a catch can athlete. You know what I
Right,
mean?
exactly.
So
yeah.
it's he had like and
It's
the
not like somebody scouted him as a wrestler and were like, oh, by the way, you know business? How about you run the business?
Right.
His father was already a businessman.
Vincent
He was a
J.
businessman
wait,
first,
Vincent
and then he
Kennedy,
was like, you know
J.
what?
McMahon, yeah.
Maybe I could do that.
Now he's whipping Michaels with a belt.
Yeah.
Kind of
yeah.
the symbolism of the
Oh,
the
he's
boss
the
over
owner.
the
Okay, yeah.
like the whipping boy, right?
Right,
So-
right. Okay. Now imagine any other sport though. The commissioner is also
Right, it's hacky. Yeah. Like, can you imagine Adam Silver coming out in the court and just like
yeah.
clocking LeBron James and then posing for the crowd and then running up?
Or even
like,
if he
getting
just
away.
played the game, if he could come out and like brain some trees or something.
Just be like, what? What are you gonna do now? What are you gonna
the
do?
commissioner. Yeah. Yeah. How many players do you think would like to take a hit on Gary Bettman
Oh,
in the
dear
NHL?
God,
One of
don't
the
even
most
get me started.
Nobody likes that. One of the
No.
most hated commissioners in any
Right.
sport. He'd be out there. They'd be.
What
drilling
about
through the
Goodell?
grass.
What
And
about
then
Goodell? Would probably
yeah,
be even
Goodell
worse.
rubbed a lot of people the wrong way.
Right.
He was quarterback. It would be.
Oh, it'd be
You know,
open season.
Talk about Bounty Gate from the New Orleans Saints a few years ago. That'd be a league-wide
Right,
Bounty
yeah.
Gate. Sack this guy.
You have McMahon trying to get the crowd up. I guess sarcastically, this is what Shawn Michaels does to get his move called Sweet Chin Music. Basically a super kick right to the chin.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
And it's unfortunate because back now, like a little bit before this, and now the super kick was like a huge deal. Like it was a huge move.
Right,
Nowadays,
I
it
know
seems to be just a connecting move into the next phase of the match.
huh.
Like super kick back in the day was like bam down, you're done, knocked out.
Wow.
Where nowadays it's more like a bam down, 1 2. Oh, he kicked out. Like oh my gosh, it's crazy. Like nowadays, even not just WWE, but outside the WWE like flag, you see guys having super kick like finanzas. Like oh, I super kick you. You're still saying oh, I'm gonna super kick. Like, and they just go back and forth, and it doesn't. It's kind of lost its impressiveness. Oh, I was gonna say I might want to turn this up a little bit because there's a couple times where like Michaels or McMahon will use a weapon, and you can hear it. Like it is like the one time I will make sure we stop talking. I know exactly what it is, and it is loud. And it's amazing to hear, and it's amazing to think, that happened on a human body. It's not like a sound effect or a drum or somebody's knocking.
Yeah.
It's a human body that made that noise.
Right, we know they got sensitive microphones down right by
Right.
the ring, which is cool that they can capture all that. Kind of like how hockey has those sensitive microphones that do like the scrape of the ice. And
Right.
stuff. But for
Nothing
this
beats
is,
being live,
this
though.
is flesh on flesh. Oh yeah, so being live, even up in the 300s, can you hear that that kind of stuff?
300's probably not, but like in the 100 area, you can definitely still hear a good.
Cool.
You can
actually
hear a good slap.
That's cool. I must really glad to be experiencing. Whoa.
And now that's his son Shane McMahon.
His son is that's
With a
almost
kendo
that's not
stick,
fair.
one of those-
He's got a whole corral of weirdo cheerleaders, and then
Now his son, yeah.
his son, yeah, and he's got a big old
And
stick.
this isn't me. I'm just quoting what Vince McMahon used to call Shane McMahon. He's like, he's the product of my semen. It's literally in the
That's
middle
what he
of shows. He was like, and the product of my semen, Shane.
To put it bluntly.
To put it bluntly, that is quoting Vince McMahon. Is exactly what he said.
Oh man,
This
can't
is
get
this
any
is
more
still
blunt
TV
than
14. Yeah, I was gonna
that.
say.
Yeah, I bet these days.
And now we're talking
That's
earlier.
another big thing we talked about last week was just how
You know you can
different
make
it
those
is.
bigger, right?
Oh,
They're not. They're not. There you go.
Yeah, that's something we talked a lot about last week was how this was a different era
Right.
completely because back in the day it was TV 14 So you can show crazy stuff like
Right.
this. You can get away with a
Especially
lot more.
Shawn Michaels forcing Shane McMahon to kiss his own father's butt.
Right.
And then a low blow.
Whoa, just threw him right out of it.
Right, yeah.
And it's funny, he's wrestling in a full suit, too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. You will see that from time to time. Classic handcuff spot.
Oh, he's got him. Handcuffed right to the ropes.
Yep.
Did he have a key just on him?
Yeah, well, those are his cuffs, yeah.
Oh, they're his own cuff. Okay.
Now he doesn't have
Oh,
it.
threw it into the crowd. Oh,
Now, those things hurt. I would assume those things hurt.
Wailing
That is
on
wood.
a
I mean,
wooden
they
stick.
can't be comfortable. I was going to say, I think this might be where I'm going to turn this up. Just listen.
Whoa.
It is steel on chair.
Yeah. Now, even people who don't know anything about wrestling have definitely know about the whole bashing somebody's head with the chair. Ooh, man, and they made a dent.
He made a dent in that chair, yeah. But yeah, that is probably the one. I mean, there's another part of this match where you clearly remember it, but like just the sound of that chair smacking Vince McMahon's head, and then looking at the chair and seeing the dent. It's like what this man won't do to save his to make his product better. And now basically Shawn Michaels has attempted his sweet chin music, but he just stopped dead in his tracks because he wants to cause more damage.
Wow.
And I just love how biased their announcer Jim Ross is. He absolutely hates Vince McMahon. So it's kind of funny to hear, like obviously growing up, we were taught as announcers, like, no bias, be as, like, it's down the middle as you can be. And then there's WWE where you're just like, I hate his ass!
Right.
I hate his ass!
Yeah, completely different thing. And
Send him to hell!
I'm always curious because we know that it's not exactly scripted word for word, but it is kind of outlined. I wonder how much the announcers know, or if like maybe they're kept way more in the dark than the wrestlers themselves.
Right.
Just so their
reactions are genuine.
Reactions are a lot more.
Look at the blood. And it's like and obviously there have been points in wrestling where you could say, "Oh, this guy's bleeding, this guy's bleeding," but like you look at this spot and you look at Vince McMahon and his arms are out, like there's never, and then the camera sees him bleeding. Like there's no chance for him to like bring a blade in or something and fake cut himself open so that the spectacle is there. So it's like you think, oh my God, that ladder actually cut his head open. Like that's what happened.
Wow.
Like the ladder caught the corner and it cut him open. Like, and you were saying last week, like, what business where do you bleed for your profession, possibly as part of your job? Like, obviously, we always joke about the. Hold on 1 second. I think we lost our Facebook Live feed.
Okay.
So everything's just gone right today, hasn't it? Well, the show must go on, unfortunately. I don't know what the heck happened, but we lost our Facebook Live feed, but our podcast is still going. One of these days, Trevor, everything will work. One of these days.
That's right.
I mean, we got here, and, like, what happened? We got here, and...
Yeah, it's a learning experience. It's
Right.
trial and error, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate, because you want these things to, like... You see the people doing it all the time. Like, they got the Facebook Live feed, then they got... they got the audio going, and they have the camera going, and they're live on Facebook, they're live on TV, and you want so bad for that to be you, and you get all the stuff to get it, and then you come in, and then we can't log on to the computer, so that's gone.
Right,
so then you have Facebook Live going, and that just cuts out for some reason, and then you got, at least This is still working.
Right. Yeah, I think. But what we don't see of all the successful people is they probably went through the same exact
Right.
thing over
And
and
they
over and
probably have a
over
crew of people
until
doing
they,
all the stuff
they
we're
got a
doing.
whole crew of people doing it, and they probably went over and over, made the same exact mistakes, probably went even worse a couple of times, and then they finally got it right. So we're just in that early stage of, learning from mistakes and that sort of thing. And that's perfectly fine. It makes it more exciting in a little ways, and that especially when you do come really far and you are really good at it. That's when you kind of realize, like, well, look how far we've come. That's when you really know you've made it, when you can compare it to times like these.
Right. So to kind of update you, I hope we're back live on Facebook. That's the last time I'm going to try it. If it goes out again, oh well. I'm sorry, people. We'll learn. We're learning. And so to kind of update you on what's been going on, basically Shawn Michaels has been doing one big move, and then he goes for the super kick, and he's like, no, I got to do more. I got to do more. And now he's got, but basically looks like a 20-foot ladder that he's moving into the ring. And I don't know if you've been on top of a 20-foot ladder. It's high.
Right, yeah.
It's kind of like makes me wonder, like, so you're Shane McMahon, and our dads are getting what they deserve, basically, if you think about it. Like, they were a total jerk to this guy, and he's giving them the business. Like, what do we do? Do we defend their dad, even though we might agree with what, what the person's saying, or I don't know. It's a tough one to think about. I'm on Shawn Michaels' side in this one.
Right.
If we haven't seen what led up to this. It's pretty bad, and it's all scripted, so you know that he was okay with it at some point, because you don't just let things happen like that. If
He's just throwing a whole garbage can over him. That's fine.
yeah. Now there have been talks of like outside people who weren't in this match at all. Like, how would you like to be that guy in the trash can? You can't see.
Right.
All you can see is the top of the trash can, and then you're just waiting to get hit by an elbow, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, imagine the anticipation. No matter how many times you may have rehearsed it and that.
Right, and which I don't think you rehearse these kind of spots.
Oh, I remember kids in school doing
Yeah,
that.
the DX chop.
Is that his famous
That
signature
is,
thing?
yep, no, that's the DX. That was the group that's going to the Hall of Fame this year.
Oh, right, okay, so the whole group would do
we
that.
didn't see it. It's very quick, but you actually see the referee like kind of wiggle Vince's foot to like kind of like say, "Hey, by the way, here he comes. Get ready."
Like tense up.
Well,
okay.
because I was gonna say, like, you gotta wonder, like, if you're sitting there and you're just waiting for that to happen, like, what your body might do. I don't know if Vince McMahon ever gets scared. I mean, he doesn't look like he does. But like, do you tense up? Like you said, do you tense up? Maybe something happens to your muscles because you're tensed up so much, and it's like you like impact. You know what I mean? And it's just. Yeah, that would be scary to be sitting there. Because I've heard WWE wrestlers say, like, you got to trust the guy who's coming down on you, because they could seriously screw you up. If they either intentionally or unintentionally do something wrong, they can seriously screw you up. So you got to be able to trust the guy that you're in the ring with. And it's kind of funny, you see these guys be so, like, animosity towards each other in the ring, like, in the storyline. Or in real life, you don't know. Some of these people might have real life animosity, but like, and then and then in the back you hear him say like, "Oh, we're trustworthy. We have to trust each other in that ring," because you're basically taking the other person's life in your hands in some situations. And like, obviously Vince McMahon seems like he'll do anything to like promote his product.
Yeah, imagine that. Like, if something did go wrong, the CEO of this whole organization
Right,
dies
and he was
right
a big
in the
deal.
ring.
I was gonna say he's a big deal part of storylines. It's not like this is like a one-off. Like
Yeah,
he's still actively
continuously,
involved in
before
the.
and after that. He's always put himself in the spotlight, which is a unique thing. That's cool.
Right.
And it doesn't come off as like gimmicky in a way of like, oh, the boss wants to be in on this one. He's entertaining to watch because he's such a wacko.
Yeah, which is and after all that, Shawn Michaels sweet chin music to the chin, down goes Vince McMahon 1, 2, 3. And actually, it's funny because after like this, they would still be fighting, and Vince McMahon was just like, that was a blip on the radar, nothing, no big deal. and he like basically came out and like basically said, "Nah, it doesn't matter, doesn't matter."
Wow.
So I don't think there's ever been a job where I wanted to kick my boss's ass as much as this guy wanted to kick.
Yeah.
So
that would be funny if disputes were settled in real life the
Right.
same way as
Right.
they're settled.
So basically, what happens is Vince McMahon gets carted out of the arena. He looks like dead to rights, like just laying there like a limp fish. And then right at the end, he flips off the camera. So it's like
That's funny.
So we're gonna skip ahead a little bit, just to we're going through highlights here, and we're gonna go to the next match, which is the triple threat match for the World Heavyweight, which is Kurt Angle, Rey Mysterio, and Randy Orton.
Wow.
And the story behind this one is, I don't know if you ever heard of Eddie Guerrero, but if
I've
you're a
definitely
wrestler,
heard the name, yeah.
he passed away, I believe, the year before, in 2005-ish, maybe early 2006.
Okay.
And Rey Mysterio was known for being like one of Eddie's best friends, and they were like compadres.
Okay,
And-
two Mexican wrestlers. Yep.
Yep.
Cool.
And basically, when he died, Ray was so torn up, but he was like, you know what? I'm going to win the Royal Rumble for Eddie. And the Royal Rumble is the match at the beginning of the year in January. It's a 30-man match that basically, and we're gone again off Facebook Live. I apologize. Listen to us here. This will always work. I don't know what's going on with the iPad. I guess I'll have to look at it for next week. But basically, Rey Mysterio went out and he won the Royal Rumble match, which winning that match, which is over the top, like Battle Royal, and basically you win that match, you get a guaranteed title shot at WrestleMania for whatever match you want. And Randy Orton was the last guy eliminated in the Royal Rumble. Basically, he baited Rey Mysterio into giving up or putting his Royal Rumble like main event status on the line in a match at the pay-per-view after the Royal Rumble, and he cheated to win, but it was a win, and so Rey Mysterio was out of WrestleMania. And then basically Teddy Long, who was the commissioner of SmackDown at that time, was like, I can't change that, but I can put you in it. So he puts him in the match, and so it's a triple threat match. So it's Randy Orton, Rey Mysterio, Kurt Angle. Now, the way Kurt Angle became champion is actually an interesting story in and of itself, because I don't know if you know the guy who plays, he's in Guardians of the Galaxy. His name's Dave Bautista.
Oh,
he's
yeah,
the
I've
big
heard
blue
of
guy.
him. Yeah,
he was
yeah,
he's actually a WWE wrestler.
Oh, yeah.
Is, I'm not sure, because he doesn't show up. He's not a full-time guy anymore, but
okay. He's
he
a
got
great
in-
actor. He's got perfect, funny timing.
he's perfect for that role, I hear.
Yeah,
I
that
haven't
role.
seen it when I really should go see it.
Oh, yeah,
because
you'd love it. You'd love it for a
we
lot of
should
reasons.
do it here.
Yeah, we should review it.
Right.
It's a great film.
Well, seeing as how well we've done with movies in the past, right? Anyways, but so he was the world heavyweight title holder, but he got injured, and they had a battle royal on SmackDown to determine who would become world heavyweight champion, and Angle won that match. So, and he's been the champion since then, and that's how these three guys got to WrestleMania 22 in Chicago. Now, because of how long, I don't know if you noticed, but that match that we just watched with Vince McMahon, a little long, like a little, it doesn't tire you out, but it's a little long.
Right.
There's a rumor, or not a rumor, but there's a thought that the reason this match coming up is pretty short it was supposed to be about 19 minutes long, and it was cut down to 9.
Oh,
And they were told
cut it in
before the
half.
match. They were told before the match that it was going to be cut down to 9.
Yeah, that's crazy. Way to think on your feet. Like, oh man, we got to cut this thing in half, but still keep all the best parts in.
Basically, yeah.
So what? Yeah, what's the conspiracy about why they had to?
Well, it's not a conspiracy. It's more just a thought process that because the street fight went so long, or the no holds barred match went so long, they had to cut because they have time constraints. Even though it's a pay-per-view,
the other people went way over time.
yeah,
then,
basically
so you
a
said,
combination
wow.
of maybe a couple other matches going a little bit longer than planned. They had to cut this match by 10 minutes, but it's still a pretty good match overall. I mean, a triple threat match, you have a lot more factors. You got 3 guys, not 2, so you got 3 sets of talents. You have basically Kurt Angle in the middle. He's loved, he's hated either way. Then you have Rey Mysterio, who's the giant underdog in this match, and he's the sentimental favorite, and he's loved by all. This is actually a really cool spot right here.
Wow.
Basically, Kurt Angle's known for being an Olympic wrestler, actually.
Right, yeah, he's one of the few that actually earned medals in the real
Yep, he won 2 in Atlanta, I believe, in different types of wrestling. But yeah, if you actually watch him in his early days, he actually transitions very well because not only is his wrestling on point, obviously, I mean, the guy's an Olympic medaling wrestler. His character comes off really cocky and everything like that. But he's like that. He's like the hunk. Oh, what's the guy? Not Pee Wee Herman, but he doesn't know that he's a total goof, and he acts that way. But in this mode, he's a serious wrestler. Like he's down there. Like he hard nosed. He's a wrestler. He's not a goofy gimmick anymore, as he was maybe back in the day. But like it's crazy to see him transition from that to the heavy machine, like the machine base, the wrestling machine, as he's known. And actually, it's funny because 2 of these 3 guys are still wrestling in the WWE. I believe Randy Orton has never left WWE. Like it's not like he went to another not corporation, but like another company and wrestled. I think he's always been with WWE. Rey Mysterio went to I don't know. I think he was let go at one point, but he's basically wrestled in the Mexico wrestling and the AAA, I believe, is a Mexican one. Lucha Underground, and he basically wrestled in the Mexican wrestling leagues, and then he came back I believe last year sometime, 2018. He came back and he's now a current wrestler with SmackDown, and so is Orton. He still wrestles for SmackDown as well. Kurt Angle is actually a semi-retired WWE wrestler. He's actually went to the Hall of Fame last year. He was the key line guy, the main guy that drew people. That's kind of how they do the WWE Hall of Fame ceremony. You got the main guy who will draw everybody to show up. Like, Kurt Angle, Goldberg, 1 year Shawn Michaels, Stone Cold Steve Austin. When The Rock goes in, he's going to be the main guy, who he still isn't in, by the way. I don't know what they're saving it for, but yeah, I mean, he's going to go in. It's not like they're there's not a debate here. Yeah, he's definitely one of the most famous guys in WWE. He's still in probably better shape now than he was when he wrestled. Like if you watch it, if you follow him on Facebook and all these social media sites, his workouts are like legendary. And I just love his break day, which is called like a lifter's day off. Like they can eat whatever they want, and it doesn't matter because their metabolism is so fast. It doesn't matter, everything like that. It's just kind of funny to see his break day is about as much food as I would probably eat in a week. It's crazy.
Wow,
yeah,
that's amazing.
But so they have like the headline guy who's gonna draw everyone. You have a couple other guys who maybe aren't the headlines, but they're more popular enough. And then you have people who are like, we have to put them in. It's too better later than never sort of guys. And I mean, not to downplay anybody, because everyone that goes into the Hall of Fame. And you have to have like a representative. It seems like you have to have a white, obviously. Then you have to have black. You have to have a woman.
Okay.
You have to have
so
you have to have a national. Right, and it seems that way. I'm not saying WWE does that intentionally, but it seems that.
I mean, for business reasons, it would make sense to make it almost perfectly proportionally diverse to get all the different audiences in there.
Right, exactly. So you have all that, and it's basically held in the hockey arena that's around wherever WrestleMania is. So this one I believe was held. Actually, I think this one might have been at Allstate Arena too. Like they did both.
They just did
maybe.
both
I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that. But like they have the ceremony, and they're actually all up on the WWE Network. So it's kind of funny. You can actually watch the ceremonies. And sorry to update. We've been going on. I kind of forget. Hey, we're watching a pay-per-view here. Basically, what's been going on is Kurt Angle's been basically out wrestling both of these guys and putting them in ankle locks. And when the other person tapped out to technically end the match, the third wrestler is distracting the referee with doing something, and then Kurt Angle tries to put in the ankle lock again, and then they do a physical move to break up the ankle lock again. So that's kind of what's been going on. And I've told my sister, who's the other WWE fan in my family, that we have to go to a WrestleMania weekend one of these years, because now it's literally a weekend. Like
Right,
you go
that's
in
cool.
on Friday, because now it's Friday because their developmental system has a pay-per-view on Saturday. So Friday night you do the Hall of Fame ceremony. Saturday night you do NXT, which is, like I said, it's their developmental. It's usually NXT Takeover, whatever city they're in. It's usually, and actually it's funny because NXT has been said to be so much better. Whenever they compete with WWE in terms of having a pay-per-view on the weekend, they usually outperform. Like the developmental actually outperforms the full-time
Wow,
people.
that's pretty cool.
Usually, like it's not always 100%. Oh, that NXT's Takeover is going to outperform the WrestleMania. Or they actually do it on 4 weekends. They do Royal Rumble, Survivor Series weekend, WrestleMania weekend, and then there's a fourth one. What ones have I said? Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, Survivor Series. Oh my God! Any wrestling fan is gonna hate me. SummerSlam. Sorry, there we go.
I've
So
heard
the
of that,
4
yeah.
big pay-per-views in the year, because those are actually the 4 originals. So if you go the 4 first types of pay-per-views that WWE ran, it was those 4. So they call them the Big 4, and those are the huge weekends where everyone's watching for one. Like one's around Thanksgiving, the other one's around after the New Year. WrestleMania is just WrestleMania. It's always been a big deal. And then with yeah, so you got the SummerSlam obviously being during the summer. So it's been dubbed the biggest party of the summer. So it's like, around those 4 big pay-per-views, they have these NXT events. And then you do that on Saturday. And then Sunday is the pay-per-view, whatever that may be, which is WrestleMania or Survivor Series or whatever. And then Monday and Tuesday are the 2 weekly shows. And then, heck, you don't even have to stay Wednesday for NXT because they actually record the NXT episode before NXT TakeOver. So it's like you basically get the whole. You can see where WWE is in one weekend, like where their plans are going or what matches or who's the top star. You can all just do this in one weekend by going to a wrestling, one of the big 4 weekends. You just go to every single event that's around it, and you can see where it is. So, and it's a lot of money. No, don't get me wrong. There's a cost to
yeah,
it.
no, I'm sure they probably sell packages too of like if you want to get the full weekend
Yep.
deal.
I think they only do it for WrestleMania. I don't think they do it for the other 3.
Okay.
Because it's not guaranteed. Like WrestleMania, it happens. So NXT Takeover, Raw, and SmackDown, and the Hall of Fame usually they all happen in the same arena. And then the WrestleMania happens at the football stadium or wherever they may be having it. And so basically, you're going to be going to the same arena, whether you have the same seat or not. I don't know because I've never done a package. And like I said, I'd want to do that one day. That would be a really cool weekend, especially hanging out with my sister too. Be hanging out with family basically all weekend. And now back to the match, where basically it's been a even match between all 3 guys. And now I believe Rey Mysterio is now taking over. He's going to do his signature 619.
Oh yeah, where he swings his whole body around the.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. That's an amazing move.
And
Wow,
that's
and
it.
then he can grab people. With
Oh,
his
he actually
ankles.
he did win. So Rey Mysterio, I didn't know that.
Wow.
I've watched it so many times I forgot that was the ending. So
and what an
basically,
intense match like that they had to cut it in half, so they basically had to only put the good
squeeze
stuff.
it all
so
into 9 minutes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. They had signs that said "Do it for Eddie." For
Yep. Yeah, and this is definitely a
his brother.
sentimental. And actually, if you look, it says that people had to convince Vince to give Ray to put the title on Ray. Like Vince wasn't going to let him have the title, even though they've done
wow.
all this build up, all this
Like he was the star at
dedicating
the time,
to Eddie.
you know,
Yeah,
he was
one of the stars. Yeah, and you're like doing all this dedicating to Eddie and everything like that. And they're like, you have to put you can title. Ray can do it. Ray can hold on to the title. But there's some people that say that it was so scripted. It was like, of course he's gonna win. Like, there's
that
no
was
way that
almost
they're
too
gonna not
contrived
let him
that-
win.
Yeah, that they wouldn't take advantage of that sentimentality.
Right. So Rey Mysterio wins the title, and the basically honors Eddie Guerrero with his title win. And we're just gonna kind of skip ahead because there's one more match. It's this is bad. Remember when I told you that women weren't taken seriously? They
Yeah,
do a
it's a beyond gimmicky kind of pillow fight
Yeah.
with women and
exactly.
yeah.
And not that I mean I'm a man and so are you. I mean it's not like we it's just not. I mean it's kind of a waste of time to talk about like what's there to even really talk about. You know what I mean? It's a pillow fight.
Right.
But so we're moving on to the main event, which is Triple H versus John Cena, two of the biggest stars in WWE at this time, and honestly, you might be able to say even nowadays they're not wrestling as much, but they still are two of the most recognizable WWE superstars. And John Cena is semi-retired, surefire Hall of Famer one day. And I have the same thing that he has with The Undertaker. He wrestles wherever he wants to, wherever he wants to.
If he just decided to call him, like, look, I kind of feel like getting back.
I kind of feel like getting to SmackDown.
Yeah,
Let me
we'll
in
make
SmackDown.
room
Yeah,
for
we'll
you.
write you in. And the funny thing about Triple H is he's still a huge, he's a big star, but he actually married Stephanie McMahon. Like, he's married to Stephanie McMahon, who's obviously Vince McMahon's
Right,
daughter.
That's fine.
And maybe one day we'll watch this documentary. It's a little more involved detail-wise. But there were a lot of people who did not like that. They like saying, "Oh, you're just marrying his daughter just to keep your spot in the card,
Right, yeah, just
or
so
to up
he'll
your
always
spot
be
in the
in
card."
favor with the boss.
Exactly. But I think he's proven that he can give the the flag to younger wrestlers. Like he loses to guys who like it's not if he was seriously doing that with like marrying the boss's daughter just to keep his thing, why would he be losing? You know, like he would obviously be winning the whole time. But nowadays, he's actually founded NXT, so he's the reason that NXT exists today. He's the executive vice president of talent relations, live events, and creative. So basically, he's high up in the company, and he still wrestles from time to time. So it's like the guy. I think I read somewhere, and this is obviously Wikipedia, so take it for what you will. I think he makes $1.5 million a year combined doing all that stuff, and it's like, yeah, I know. But
Fine for real.
yeah, no, good for him. But so the thing about this match is like it's the rich guy who's been given everything, like the acting. Obviously, it's not maybe not true in terms of real life, but like Triple H, who's the establishment, he's the rich guy. He's been given everything. He thinks he's the best, all that kind of stuff, and it's him versus John Cena, who had to scratch and claw his way to get everything he get everything he owns and deserves. And so that's kind of the story they're going with here. And you got the Triple H, the moniker King of Kings. So you got the King of Kings versus the lowly, commoner. Kind of is what the match of this is. And actually, Triple H earned his way into this match by, I believe it was a triple threat between RVD, who actually won the Money in the Bank earlier in the night, and then Big Show, who actually was in the tag team title match earlier in the night. So all three of those guys made it to WrestleMania, even though only one of them got to fight for the WWE Championship, which is kind of funny because you would think the WWE Championship would headline every WrestleMania always, because it should be the top prize, the top dog always wants the championship, and it's not always true. The year that Undertaker and Shawn Michaels at 26, I believe, the WWE title wasn't the lead, it wasn't the top main event, and there's definitely been plenty of time. Like I think it was 33. Undertaker and Roman Reigns wrestled. That wasn't for the WWE title. 34. I believe what was the main event of 34? Oh my God, it was last year. I can't even think. Oh my goodness. I'm so embarrassed. Research guy, get this out. WrestleMania 34. What was the main event?
All right,
you're gonna say it, and I'm just gonna bash my head off the table because all I know is the WWE title wasn't. Oh, the Universal title. I know. Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. So that was the main event, but that was the Universal title. Like the WWE title should be your top prize and should be what everyone owns or what everyone goes for.
Right, and just kind of logically
Right.
makes sense that way. But
Yeah.
there we go.
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar. Well,
And Brock Lesnar won. What a shocker. Me and my sister were watching that. We were like looking at each other like, what? What just happened here? But it's funny how Lesnar just shows up once every 3 months and is still a title holder. Like that is a debate. Obviously, we can't have it because we're not as. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Like how a part timer can hold one of your top belts and not show up very much. So now we're on the John Cena's entrance, and we're gonna skip a little bit to So basically, he has the entrance where he's got kind of I don't know if it's a reference to the Chicago Mafia or whatever, but he's got a bunch of guys with Tommy guns.
Oh, okay, yeah, they kind of look like Al Capone era.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Yeah, but so John Cena comes out with a trench coat and a hat, and he basically has a Tommy gun that he fires off, and it's kind of funny because it's like it also plays into that theme of the King of Kings versus the lowly commoner.
Right.
It's like because the story before that they were talking about Chicago, how it went through the Great Depression, and the rich kept everything, and the poor had to scratch and claw. And it was a group of poor guys who said, "This is our turf. You got to like."
Right. Okay. Almost making like the.
So a lot of things are tying into that theme.
Okay. Cool. It's like the story of Chicago.
Right.
The mob were commoners and they took over and got a crazy amount of power that way.
Right. So I don't know. You can hear they're doing ring introductions now, and John Cena's introduced. You got Triple H who got cheered, and then John Cena who got booed.
Wow.
But it's supposed to be John Cena who's like the corporate, like the guy they picked.
They're pushing him real hard. Oh,
right.
That's funny. So you're saying that did not go as planned for?
I don't know. It's kind of funny with John Cena. It seems like now they expect it that John Cena got booed. I mean, maybe not at this point, but as time went on, you would see like John Cena, like they were clearly playing into it. Like John Cena would play into it, like you said, he has perfect comedic timing. Like he was always like, you guys are rambunctious here tonight, and he's like, clearly the people were just booing the bejeebus out of him,
right?
And he's like, you guys are a hot crowd tonight. So, and it's funny because in the entrance for John Cena, he had, like I said, he had a bunch of guys who were in looked like mob type uniforms, like a suit with a Tommy gun and a hat. It's actually two wrestlers who were wrestling. Well, one that's wrestling now, one that wrestled before, but got unceremoniously fired.
Oh.
But the Miz, who is a wrestler now, was one of the guys, the gunman, and then CM Punk was another guy, but he's actually shown too. Like you see CM Punk riding the car, and he kind of looks around, and you can see him. But like it's kind of funny because they bring that up. Like CM Punk brings that up, and he's like, John Cena is never as good as me. He's just the corporate guy. And maybe one day we can watch CM Punk's documentary. And I don't know if that'd be an interesting thing to do on a podcast and talk about, but I think we might give it a shot one day because it's very interesting to see his story and to know that he's not there anymore. And there's more to it that they're not going to talk about because it makes WWE look really bad. So maybe one day it'd be interesting to see. But while the match is going on, a couple numbers. The final attendance at WrestleMania 32, WrestleMania 22. 32 was only a few years ago. WrestleMania 22 was a 17,155, which nowadays looks like a small crowd compared to, like you said, all the football stadiums
they
that
actually
hosted.
sell out at every indoor football stadium has a chance to host.
Actually, these are most are outdoor.
Or that's
you got
crazy.
if you go. So Ford Field was indoor. I think that was probably the test to see if they could fill it again because they used to. I mean, WrestleMania 3 was in the Pontiac Silverdome, and they've sold that out, and it held the record for most people to watch a WWE event until WrestleMania 32, which was in Dallas, which was in the Jerry Palace, as some like to call
Oh,
it,
right. Yeah, Jerry World.
which is like 100,000. They said, and people are debating whether that's true or not. Like the set attendance was like 100,000,
Wow,
plus.
100,000 people.
Right, and they were all booing Roman Reigns at the end. So, and the gross money at the gate was 2.5 million. So they made 2.5 million just in ticket sales. So like when they sold out, like I think it was in a minute or a couple minutes, they which always mesmerized me. Like I've seen ticket lines at games or at Bills games, at Sabres games. You cannot tell me that all 17,000 tickets got sold in 2 minutes. Like there's no, I mean you got to be saying, oh, not everyone went to the arena. They had to buy them online. So it's kind of funny to think like, oh yeah, they sold out within 2 minutes. I'm like, come on, really? Like it just always.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. Like we mentioned a few times, it's the last one to take place in a typical like arena, and so it was watched in 16 countries. 43 states attended. Those are the people that were in the crowd, and then it had 975,000 pay-per-view buys. So I think a very successful WrestleMania, and just kind of reading the Wikipedia talk about it when it talks about the reception. And a quote Wikipedia. WrestleMania 22 is largely praised by various wrestling publications and websites. Writing for Slam Wrestling, Dave Plummer and Nick Talwalk stated that with more wrestling, less interviews, and more pageantry than the last several editions, this year's Mania had a big-time feel to it. Of course, big time being the tagline, because they had the song. He rated the event an 8 out of 10 stars, which had a higher than the previous year's event, which was WrestleMania 21 in Hollywood. The main event between Triple H and John Cena for the WWE Championship was rated 8.5 out of 10. Triple threat between Kurt Angle, Rey Mysterio, and Randy Orton was 8.5. No holds barred match between Shawn Michaels and Vince McMahon was perfect 10 out of 10. I agree. I think that no holds barred match was everything it should have been. It's the guy fighting against the power. WWE has definitely used that a lot in their storylines, where it's fighting against the power of the corporation, basically.
Right, yeah, clearly it's tried, but it's true, it clearly it works.
Mm-hmm. This is a pretty solid show, as both title matches deliver in one aspect or another. Shawn tries to steal the show again, but Edge and Foley take the honor in a crazy-ass brawl. This is the last Mania held in the arena in a fun atmosphere because of the jacked-up crowd. Throw in another solid Money in the Bank match, a memorable women's title match, and you have a fun show all around. And I agree. The thing you lose, obviously you get more people in the football stadium, but the thing that you get in the arena is that you get the coverage. Like you get the encasing of the fan noise and everything like that. And I've actually heard a few wrestlers say that it's difficult to know if you're doing a good job or not, because you get into the open air stadiums and they and the sound just goes up. It doesn't stay in with you. It just goes up. So you never know. Like, oh, am I doing a good job? Do I know? I have no idea. So it's kind of like I don't like. It's kind of funny. And I know you're probably hearing me. I'm just kind of skipping ahead because the match itself is decent. There's really not being too experts at wrestlers. Like I watch it, and you're a passive fan, but we're not like experts in the holds or the all that kind of stuff.
Specific technique.
Right. So it's the match itself. I can just tell you it's a really good match and it definitely tells a story. Triple H is cocky the whole time, and he's basically like, I'm better than you.
And that sort of
Yeah.
Okay.
Good match overall. What were we saying before? I was just trying to explain. People were like, "Wait, is your phone broken? Like, why does it keep cutting in and out like that?" So yeah, you kind of lose the sound as it goes up, and you just don't know if you're doing a good job or not. So I think it's definitely has a benefit to be indoors, but I can totally understand. Like, obviously you want more people, because guess what? More people equals more money. So I can definitely explain see why they went that route to go into stadiums. And now have actually, since WrestleMania 23, I think they've repeated in a few stadiums. I know they've been to the Citrus Bowl twice. They've been to New Orleans, the Superdome twice. And I was gonna say, it looks like Triple H low blowed Cena. And it looks like he low blowed the ref too, like at the same time.
Oh,
So I don't know how well that was thought out, but I was always interested. Like, what if Buffalo could host WrestleMania? That'd be awesome.
That would. I mean, I think there's speculation will the build a new stadium. If they do, and if it's like in an area where it's also attached to a nice business district, like somewhere near the canal side, Pagulaville, if you will.
Right.
Then we might have a shot. Still, we have such a small amount of people, but I think you could pitch it to McMahon or whoever's in charge.
I mean,
hey, all these Canada loves wrestling. People don't realize rural Canada is just as obsessed with wrestling.
Right, and you have a lot of Canadian wrestlers too.
Yeah, and a lot of Canadian. Like maybe bill it, like put as many Canadian wrestlers on the bill as you can. And they'd come flooding over the Peace Bridge.
Definitely.
I think
it
could work.
I mean, you have the Citrus Bowl, which I believe only sits like a few thousand over 70, which is just as much as the Bills stadium does now. So it's like if it stays at Ralph Wilson, maybe you could probably do just as good as some of these other venues. Okay. But if they do build a stadium like with a roof in downtown or something like that, I mean, I think they could do it. I think it'd be a great event, and to hold, I mean, the Hall of Fame, and you got Shays. You could do the Hall of Fame at Shays.
That's cool.
Because I mean, they don't always do it in the arenas to fill up. I mean, they do a nice pageantry. Like, I don't know, Shays obviously doesn't fit 17,000. Like, so I mean,
do that at the arena or maybe at where you work at the Harbor Center.
Well, the Harbor Center probably not.
Yeah,
it's a little too small for.
That doesn't hold out too much.
Right. Yeah.
Thinking about it, but.
I mean, you could have. I mean, you can have all the indie shows that need a place to go. You can have it there. The convention center could hold all the indie shows. So WrestleMania Buffalo. Let's get the tag.
Yeah, imagine that. I think it would because they like modern new stuff.
Right. I think you'd have to build a new stadium to get it.
Yeah, and they want a business district around it. Unfortunately, for Orchard Park, it makes for convenient parking and tailgating.
Right.
There's not a whole lot of ton of bars to go to and that sort of thing. They probably would look for that. So if they build a new one,
you wonder if Buffalo executives are even trying. I don't know how it even works. You have to put a bid together. I know that.
Okay, you
have to bid for WrestleMania.
McMahon and
right. Yeah. Exactly.
All right.
So I mean, how can you resist if they ever go to the Coliseum in L.A.? You know what I mean? That's 100,000. And now we're going into the ending of the match where John Cena is locked in the STFU, which is the acronym, and it's so. Yeah, it would just be. I know that they've done Raw, they've done SmackDown, they've done NXT here. But like I said, I think I agree with you. You need a good business district. You need a lot of places for people to go. I mean, Buffalo has a lot of history, so there's a lot of things to do around here. And there's a lot of hotels that could probably hold all the people.
We got a ton of hotels downtown, so that would probably
right. It would be interesting. I'm sure there's a lot more that goes into the bid than just can you host it? Can you have Can you have the facilities?
Yeah, exactly. How where are you going to put the stars up? Where are you going to, are you able to handle that many fans? And not just in the arena itself, but before and after the game. Will it be easy for them to,
get out?
Yeah, get out.
Could you imagine a WrestleMania crowd trying to get out of downtown?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. They'd probably have to do a lot of infrastructure updating before we can talk about hosting things like Super Bowls, WrestleMania. But that is one of the events that
you would draw so much attention.
If you could get that, that's how you know you've made it. That's how we'll know the Buffalo Renaissance is truly complete. When we
get WrestleMania.
Yeah, when we can get huge events, and like you said, they last full weekends now. It's not just one thing. Imagine how much money.
And it's not just WWE too. You have everyone trying to milk off WrestleMania's attendance. You have all these independent wrestling shows showing up. You have
Cool.
all these meet and greets, the merchandise, everything. If you, like you said, if you can get that, it's a major coup. It's a major.
Cool.
It shows off that Buffalo, like you said, has come around and is definitely back in the days of where the Erie Canal actually came through.
Right, yeah,
and it was a popular place to go.
Yeah, when we held the Pan American Exposition, and then a president died. McKinley got shot.
Right.
It's been kind of a slow decline since then. Like hopefully nobody gets shot if we host another.
Yeah,
huge
let's
event.
not have the shot part.
But yeah, let's prove them. Like, look, in 1901 we held the Pan Am, and that was cool up until the end. Like, we can hold another big thing. We're ready again, man. We're ready.
So that was WrestleMania 22. Little choppy. I mean, I think we're just, like you said, like we're just starting in this again. Like we've stopped and started a few times, so we'll get better at reviewing stuff while watching. I don't know. We've done it both ways. We've done it where we've had the event on the screen, and we've also practiced in a way where we're just kind of talking back and forth about things. And obviously, we'll talk off the air about what we're gonna do next. But yeah, I think this is an interesting perspective to have a fan and then have a person who's just watching it maybe for the first time, maybe the second time, just to kind of, and then having your perspective on it. I think it's an interesting way to do it. And to update everybody about the At Random channel, we finally have some video game stuff going up. The first part of Sly Cooper's been up. The second part, it's kind of a running theme, like technical difficulties. It seems like they haunt us like crazy.
Because we're just paying our dues.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So we know we're worth it when it actually happens. There's a lot of different shows we're planning on doing. And the podcast is just one of them. And hopefully everyone decides to keep listening. We do have 7. This is up to 7 episodes. I can't wait till we get to 10 because it's been a year. It's been 2 years in the making because we keep getting busy and then forgetting to do it. And then it's just like months go by and they're like, "You want to do a podcast?" Sure. So we just get up and do it again. So for right now, we don't know what our next pathway is to what we're going to talk about. Our poll for the movies didn't really do very well. We only had a couple votes, so maybe we need to get popular first before we try that route to have the fans.
Before we have actual democracy.
Dictatorship. But so we'll talk about off the air, and we'll let you know. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, donate to us on Patreon, and obviously watch and listen to our videos on YouTube and Twitch. For Trevor Dugan, anything you got to say before we move on for this week?
It was nice to watch a full WrestleMania like that. I have definitely a new appreciation for the WWE.
Yeah, it's a tough life, and not one me or you would ever want to do.
Right, for sure.
But I think watching it's definitely entertainment, and people should see it that way. And if you don't like it, you don't have to hate on it either. So for Trevor Dugan, my name's Alec Pinturpi. This has been the At Random Podcast. And just remember to stay random, everybody. Have a good day.